to this week's Movie Math, where we take a look at a weekend that must have been super frustrating for Angelina Jolie. Yes, as I noted in my review for Gravity, Jolie was Alfonso Cuarón's first choice for the role, but as it took longer and longer to develop the technology to make the movie, she dropped out to pursue other projects. Well, fast forward to Gravity's opening weekend of around $55 million, the biggest of Sandra Bullock's career, and what would have been the biggest of Jolie's as well. It's also the biggest debut ever for George Clooney, and the month of October. But when you think about it, Gravity was built to make money. First off, it brilliantly utilizes the IMAX and 3D formats, making it one of those rare movies that audiences feel is worth the upcharge, along with Avatar and last year's Life of Pi. In fact, 80% of Gravity's box office came from 3D. Then on top of all that, the movie is only 90 minutes long. That means Warner Brothers can get a high number of showtimes off of a single screen, a business strategy that seems to have been forgotten recently as movies get longer and longer. And critics certainly helped, overwhelmingly giving their stamp of approval to an action movie. Yes, audiences didn't exactly care when critics also gushed this year about Mud or Short Term 12. Speaking of critical acclaim, Gravity's Oscar chances just got a whole lot better, as the industry will be keen to find some common ground with its audience, who they need to tune in to the Academy Awards. Indeed, while Gravity's boffo debut is certainly a win for those involved, it's also a much-needed win for Hollywood as a whole. Overall, the weekend was still down 20% from last year, and films are able to make the top 10 only grossing in the 2 million range. Plus, as I reported last week, Wall Street is predicting that audiences will be disappointed in 2014 and downgrading relevant entertainment stock accordingly. There was only one other success story this weekend, and that was Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2. It dropped in just the 30% range, meaning it clearly has some French fry legs. Plus, with no family competition until Ender's Game and Freebirds on November 1st, it should be able to make a good chunk of change before being packed up in a doggy bag for audiences to enjoy at home or on the go. That said, though, it's unlikely it will be able to match the original stateside haul, so don't expect any more trips to Swallow Falls. Unless they make an animated series, which I highly recommend. I need my berry. Now, while Sandra Bullock was having a banner weekend, it was sadly business as usual for Ben Affleck. Runner Runner debuted in league with Hollywoodland, Surviving Christmas, and Jersey Girl, films which all came out prior to his string of hits as a director. That means that despite the critical and box office success of The Town and Argo, Gone Baby Gone got things rolling but went largely unnoticed, Affleck has made up no ground as an actor. I wonder how Kevin Tsujihara feels this morning, as his latest flick Gravity might be gripping the box office, but the freshly appointed star of his revamped DC Cinematic Universe barely has a toehold. Elsewhere in the box office, there were deep drops across the board, all around 50%. At least Prisoners has a respectable 50 million-ish total to date, while Rush seems to not have one, not two, not three, but 4 flat tires, with a total of just 18 million in 3 weeks. And there was no week 2 reprieve for Don John or Baggage Claim. But it is worth noting that another Spanish-language flick made it into the top 10, Pulling Strings. It's No Instructions Not Included, but it's another great headline for Lionsgate and Pantaleon, which have distributed both films. Is this kind of crossover appeal something that only Spanish-language films can achieve here in the US, or do you think it might pave the way for other foreign-language films as well? Things could get very interesting indeed, as China is looking to ramp up their own film production and compete in the global marketplace a la Hollywood. As for this coming weekend, Captain Phillips, which had a solid if not spectacular sneak preview this past weekend, is set to open with 20 million and Machete kills with 8. That means Gravity could very well be #1 again. By the way, because I suspect many of you are wondering, I'm sticking to my guns on my Gravity review. Great visuals, cliché story. Finally, if you're going to be at New York Comic Con this weekend, you can find me on the Boom Studios panel Thursday night and the Bleeding Cool panel on Friday night. And that's the weekend box office. I'm Grace Randolph, and we just did some movie math. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope we'll go beyond the trailer for these other top movies.